George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Virginia, on the Pope's Creek plantation. He was the third of 5 children in the family of a wealthy slave owner, planter, and surveyor Augustine Washington. His father died when George was 11 years old, and his older half-brother Lawrence became the head of the family. George was educated at home and valued self-education. At the age of 20, George became a Freemason, joining the Fredericksburg Lodge in his state. Within a year, Washington was elevated to the degree of Master Mason. As president, he founded the Alexandria Lodge, which still exists today. In 1753, Major Washington received a challenging assignment to warn the French not to move towards the Ohio River Valley. Over 11 weeks, George traversed a perilous path of 800 kilometers and successfully completed the mission. In 1755, he was captured in the Battle of Fort Duquesne. Soon after, Washington was released, and during a subsequent campaign to the fort, he demonstrated bravery and was promoted to the rank of colonel. Following this, the young man became the commander-in-chief of the Virginia Provincial Regiment. Under his leadership, the regiment continued to fight against the Indians and the French, maintaining defensive positions. In 1759, George Washington married the widow Martha Custis, who brought a significant fortune into the marriage. Together, they raised 2 of Martha's children from her first marriage and 2 of their own children. Washington became a successful planter and landowner, managing his Mount Vernon plantation. In 1775, when the American Revolutionary War began, Washington was appointed commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. He proved to be a talented and determined military leader despite numerous difficulties and defeats. One of his most significant achievements was crossing the Delaware River in December 1776 and winning the Battle of Trenton. This victory boosted the Army's morale and strengthened belief in the Revolution's success. After the war ended in 1783, Washington returned to Mount Vernon, hoping for a peaceful life. However, he was called upon to participate in the creation of the new U.S. Constitution. In 1787, he presided over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, where the U.S. Constitution was drafted. In 1789, George Washington was elected the first president of the United States. He served 2 terms until 1797. During his presidency, the foundations of American democracy and government were established. Washington pursued a policy of neutrality in international affairs and sought to strengthen the national economy. He also set precedents that became the basis for future presidents, such as the 2-term limit. After completing his second term, Washington returned to Mount Vernon, where he spent the last years of his life. He continued to engage in agriculture and public activities. Washington died on December 14, 1799, at the age of 67. His legacy lives on, and he remains one of the most significant figures in U.S. history. Washington was not only an outstanding military leader and statesman, but also a man of deep moral principles. He believed in the importance of education, honesty, and public service. His life and achievements inspired generations of Americans and people around the world. Interesting facts about George Washington. Teeth made of ivory. Contrary to popular myth, Washington's dentures were not made of wood. They were made from ivory, human teeth, and other materials. Love for dogs. Washington was a great dog lover and bred them. He even developed his own breed of hunting dogs known as the American Foxhound. Mount Vernon Plantation. Washington was not only a military leader and president, but also a successful landowner. His Mount Vernon plantation was one of the most prosperous in Virginia. First, voluntary resignation of power. After the American Revolutionary War, Washington voluntarily resigned his commission as commander-in-chief, marking the first time in history a military leader voluntarily gave up power. Title: Father of his Country. Washington is often called the father of his country for his role in founding and shaping the United States. Love for theater. Washington was a great fan of theater and often attended theatrical performances in New York and Philadelphia. First presidential cabinet. Washington created the first presidential cabinet, including such notable figures as Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. Neutrality in international affairs. Washington pursued a policy of neutrality in international affairs and avoided involvement in European conflicts, which became the foundation of U.S. foreign policy for many years. Planning the Capitol. Washington played a key role in planning the new U.S. Capitol, which was named in his honor, Washington, D.C. Last words. Washington's last words were, "'Tis well, 'tis well." He died peacefully at his home in Mount Vernon.